The Galactic Council chamber filled with tension as the alarm system sent out its first warning. Ambassador Vrexter stood in the center of the room and activated the main display. The screen showed something that made every being in the chamber freeze. A fleet of unknown ships had crossed into human space. They were not visitors. They were not traitors. They were weapons. Captain Marcus Webb stood tall and still in the middle of the chamber. He was a human, one of only 5 humans who had ever been allowed inside this room. The other species had looked at him with confusion when he first arrived 3 weeks ago. They did not understand why a primitive species needed a voice in their council. Now they listened to every word he spoke. The data on the display was impossible to ignore. The attacking ships were moving fast toward Earth. They would reach the planet in less than 4 hours. Behind Marcus, the Trell delegation made small sounds of shock. Their voices were like wind moving through broken glass. The Keshan members simply stared at the numbers without speaking. Marcus stepped forward and pointed at the ships on the display. His hand was steady even though his heart beat fast inside his chest. He had trained for this moment but never believed it would come. Earth was new to space travel. Earth was weak. Everyone in this council believed that. So why would anyone attack them? Unknown attack force, Marcus said clearly. They are not using any communication codes we know. They did not send a warning. They did not say what they want. They are just coming. Council member Xerath moved his crystalline body forward. His form was made of something like glass, but harder and alive. This is a mistake, he said with complete certainty. A young species that can barely build space stations should not provoke an interstellar war. It is suicide. Marcus met his gaze directly. His eyes did not move away. They are not from any species we have had contact with. We have checked every database. No known alien faction matches these ships. These attackers are something new. Then why should the Council care? Asked the Vexilon representative. Her skin was blue like the night sky and her voice was cold. If they are not one of us, let them fight among themselves. Marcus took a breath. He had expected this response. The Council did not care about Earth yet. Earth was too young, too small, too new. But he had to make them understand something important. Because if we fall, you lose the most resource-rich planet in this sector, Marcus said. His voice did not waver. And because you will see something today that you have not seen before. You will see why this attack will fail. The silence in the chamber was deep and complete. Every being stared at Marcus. They did not believe his words. They thought he was crazy or foolish. But they would listen. They would watch. They would learn. Back on Earth, in the command center above the planet, Captain Sandra Lopez saw the same data that Marcus had shown the Council. Her screen showed 12 enemy ships moving into human space. Her hands moved across the controls without any hesitation. She had trained for this every single day for the past 5 years. All stations, this is command, Sandra said into the communication system. We have hostile contact. I repeat, we have hostile contact. The response came back from every defense station around Earth. Each commander understood what this meant. Earth was under attack. The young human race would either survive or die today. There would be no surrender, no negotiation, no hiding. Sandra was young, only 42 years old, but she had been flying defense ships since she was 25. She had seen combat before, but never like this. Never against ships this advanced. Never with so much on the line. How long until they reach firing distance? She asked the tactical officer next to her. 3 hours and 40 minutes, ma'am, the officer replied. His name was Jake Harrison, and his hand shook slightly as he worked the keyboard. Sandra pretended not to see it. Send out the general alert, Sandra commanded. Tell every city on Earth to activate their bunkers. Tell every space station to prepare for evasive maneuvers. And Jake, make sure this transmission is recorded and sent to the Council. I want them to see everything. Deep underground in Colorado, Commander David Cole sat in the main defense bunker. The walls around him were covered with screens showing every part of Earth's defense network. There were not many defense systems. Earth was too young and too poor to build many weapons. But every system they had built was placed carefully and prepared with exact calculations. David had spent 10 years designing the shields and weapons that now surrounded Earth. He knew every angle, every distance, every possible attack pattern. He had made sure that each human weapon would count. They could not afford to waste anything. All ground systems standing by, David said into his radio to Marcus, who was still in the council chamber. How long can we hold? Marcus asked. The council members were listening to every word. As long as they keep attacking, David replied. But they will not keep attacking very long. They came expecting a planet with no weapons. They came expecting easy prey. The truth was that humans had learned something that most advanced species had forgotten. When you are weak and small and new, you prepare harder than anyone else. You check your work twice. You build defenses for your defenses. You plan for failure because you know failure means death. The enemy commander made his first mistake at that moment. He sent a message to Earth in a language humans could understand. The message was simple and direct. Surrender now, or be destroyed in 1 hour, the voice said. The words came through every speaker on Earth, and in every space station. Sandra heard the message and felt her jaw tighten. Around her, the crew waited for her response. She reached forward and activated the communication system. When she spoke, her voice was clear and hard. We do not surrender, Sandra said. We do not quit. We do not accept defeat. Come if you want war. We will give you war. The message was sent to every human settlement, every space station, every ship in Earth orbit. It was also sent to the Galactic Council. When Marcus heard it, he finally allowed himself to smile. The humans would fight. They would not go quietly into the dark dot in the council chamber. The beings around Marcus understood for the first time what they were about to witness. They were going to see a young species facing death and choosing to fight instead. They were going to see humans refuse to accept what should have been impossible. The first attack came 63 minutes later. When it did, the entire galaxy changed. The human defenses, carefully placed and perfectly prepared, came alive all at once. The orbital shields lit up with power. The laser arrays positioned at the Lagrange point began their firing sequences. The kinetic weapons launched from lunar bases with perfect timing. When the first enemy ship exploded in a bright and terrible light, the Galactic Council understood the meaning of Marcus's words. Earth had prepared for this moment. Earth was ready, and the galaxy would never be the same. The attack came like a storm of fire and light across the darkness of space. The enemy ships fired their weapons with complete confidence. They had never faced any real defense. They had never seen a planet that fought back. So they came forward, expecting to see human ships burn and human cities fall. What they saw instead was something different. The orbital shields that humans had built flared to life. The energy barriers, powered by every available power plant on Earth, created a wall of light between the attacking fleet and the planet below. The first volley of enemy weapons hit that wall and vanished. The second volley did the same. The enemy commander watched his weapons fail to reach their target, and confusion filled his mind. Fire again, he ordered his weapons team. They are just testing our strength. But the humans were not testing anything. They were preparing for the next attack. Sandra Lopez watched the data flow across her screens in the command center. Every defense system was working exactly as planned. The orbital shields held. The weapons arrays tracked the enemy ships with perfect accuracy. The human fleet, though small compared to the attack force, moved into position with careful coordination. "All stations, this is command," Sandra said. Her voice was steady and strong. "You know what to do. Make every shot count." From the lunar base, the first kinetic weapons fired. These were not energy weapons or fancy technology. They were simple metal projectiles launched at speeds that would tear through any hull. When they struck the first enemy ship, the impact was devastating. The ship broke apart like it was made of paper. The Galactic Council watched this happen on their displays in the chamber far away. Counselor Myra, whose skin was the color of winter frost, let out a sound that meant shock and disbelief in her language. The Keshans, who considered themselves the greatest military power in the galaxy, stared in silence. "How many ships did they lose?" asked Zirith. 17, replied a technician. In the first exchange alone, the Human Defense Network destroyed 17 enemy ships. Marcus stood still and said nothing. But inside him, something was changing. He had believed in the human defenses. He had studied the plans. But seeing it happen was different. Seeing humans actually fight back against an alien attack was something else entirely. The enemy commander made his second mistake. Instead of pulling back and assessing the situation, he pushed forward. He had superior numbers. He had more ships. He believed that eventually raw power would overcome this human resistance. He was wrong. David Cole, deep in his bunker, watched the progress of the battle. The first phase was going exactly as they had planned. The enemy ships were attacking in waves, and each wave was being cut to pieces by the human defenses. The shield generators were holding. The weapon systems were working. The coordination between different defense stations was perfect. "Shift fire to the capital ships," David commanded to all the defense stations. "We need to stop their command structure." The order spread out through the human defense network in seconds. Every station adjusted its aim. The most powerful weapons were brought to bear on the 3 largest enemy ships. These were the command vessels, the ones that directed the attack. When those ships fired back, their weapons were more powerful than anything they had used before. They knew they were losing. They knew this was their last chance to break through the human defenses and reach Earth itself. The assault was heavy and brutal. One of the orbital stations took a direct hit, and its shields failed. The second hit destroyed the shield generator completely. The third hit killed 17 humans who had no time to escape. Sandra felt the impact of that strike in her chest. She had known that humans would die today. She had accepted that possibility. But accepting it and living through it were 2 different things. She did not let her face change. She did not let her voice shake. "Station 7, report status," she said. "Critical damage," came the response. The voice of the commander was calm, even though everyone on that station knew they were dying. "We are abandoning the station. Crew is in escape pods. Get those people to safety," Sandra said. "And reroute your weapon system to Station 4 before you shut down." The station exploded 30 seconds later. But before it did, its final weapons discharge hit one of the capital ships directly. The enemy command ship took damage it could not repair. It began to leak atmosphere. Its systems started to fail. In the council chamber, the reaction was one of pure shock. A human space station had just destroyed one of the most advanced warships in existence. It had done so knowing that the crew would die in the explosion. It had done so to protect the planet below. "They sacrificed themselves," Myra said quietly. "They fought until they could not fight anymore," Marcus said. And his voice carried something that the alien species had not heard in a very long time. He spoke with pride in his people. The attack continued for another hour. Wave after wave of enemy ships came in, and wave after wave died in the darkness of space. The human defenses never wavered. They never broke. They never showed mercy. The weapons arrays on the moon destroyed 8 more ships. The laser installation at the Lagrange point cut through enemy formation like a hot knife through paper. The human fleet, though smaller and weaker, moved with perfect timing to catch enemy ships in crossfire. By the time the attack reached its peak, the enemy commander finally understood the truth. He had walked into a trap. He had thought he was attacking a young and helpless civilization. What he had found instead was a species that was poor but determined, weak but prepared, new but ready to fight. He gave the order to retreat. The remaining enemy ships began to pull back, preparing to jump to faster-than-light speed. But the humans did not let them go easily. They fired on the fleeing ships with everything they had left. Another 4 ships were destroyed as they tried to escape. When the attack finally ended, it was quiet. The silence in space was complete and total. The human defense network had survived. Earth had survived. In the council chamber, every member looked at Marcus with new eyes. The human had not bragged. He had not promised victory. He had simply told them what would happen, and what he said had come true. Your people fought with courage, Xereth said. It was not an apology, but it was close. My people fought because we had to, Marcus replied. We fought because surrender was death anyway. We fought because we were ready. On the command center above Earth, Sandra Lopez let herself finally breathe. Around her, the crew was already moving into damage control. People were checking on the stations that had been hit. People were organizing rescue operations. The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. 17 humans had died to save a world of 8 billion people. They had made the choice to fight, and they had won. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The enemy fleet was broken. When the remaining ships tried to jump away from Earth, they carried with them the bitter knowledge of defeat. But the humans would not let them leave without one final cost. The weapons that had held back the attack now turned on the fleeing enemy, chasing them across space with deadly precision. Sandra Lopez watched from her command center as the last enemy contact began to fade from the display. The ship that carried the alien commander made its jump to faster-than-light speed and vanished from human space. The battle was over. The attack had failed. For a long moment, no one in the command center spoke. Then Jake Harrison let out a single laugh, and suddenly the entire room erupted. People were shouting, crying, holding each other. Some fell to their knees. Some raised their arms to the sky. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had actually survived. Sandra allowed herself to close her eyes for just a second. When she opened them again, she was already thinking about what came next. The damage was severe. 3 space stations had been destroyed. 2 more had taken critical damage. The lunar base had lost half of its weapons arrays. But the shields around Earth had held. Not a single enemy weapon had reached the planet's surface. Jake, status report on all stations, Sandra commanded. Station 1 is operational but damaged, Jake reported. His fingers moved across his keyboard like someone doing work to stay alive. Station 2 is operational. Station 3 is gone. Station 4 is rerouting power from backup systems. Station 5 is gone. Stations 6 through 12 are reporting operational status. Casualties are estimated at 47 personnel across all stations. The numbers were lower than Sandra had feared, but higher than she wanted. 47 humans dead in defense of their world. She would remember each of them. She would make sure everyone on Earth knew their names. Get rescue teams to all damaged stations, Sandra said. I want every crew member recovered. Then I want repair teams on those weapons arrays. We need to be ready if they come back. In the deep bunker in Colorado, David Cole was already analyzing what had just happened. His teams were scanning the space around Earth, looking for any sign that the enemy might return. But David knew something that most military commanders never understood. An enemy that broke and ran once would not come back with the same force. If they came back at all, they would come back with overwhelming numbers or not at all. "Sir, we are receiving a communication from the council chamber," a technician said to David. "They want to know our casualty count." "Tell them we lost people, but we kept the planet," David said. His voice was flat and hard. "Tell them Earth is still free." In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood had transformed from shock to something closer to fear and respect. The human ambassador had shown them something they had not believed was possible. A young species, barely 30 years into space travel, had defeated an attack from a much more advanced force. Counselor Myra stood up from her position. "Ambassador Webb, you knew this would happen. You knew your defenses would hold." "I knew we had prepared," Marcus said. His voice was steady. "I knew that every system we built would work if given the chance. I knew that my people would fight because retreat was not an option. That was all I knew." "You risked everything," Zirith said. "It was not a question." "We had nothing to lose," Marcus replied. "We are young. We have no colonies, no massive fleets, no ancient allies. All we have is Earth and the people on it. So yes, we were willing to risk everything, because everything we had was worth saving." The council members understood this in a way they had not understood it before. Most of them came from ancient civilizations with enormous resources and massive military forces. They had grown comfortable and safe. They had forgotten what it felt like to face death. Humans, with their short lives and their young species, had never forgotten it. A message came through from Sandra Lopez to the council. She was still in the command center, still coordinating the rescue and repair operations. Her face appeared on the council's display screen. She looked tired but not broken. "This is Admiral Lopez of the Earth Defense Force," Sandra said. "I want to be clear about something. If this happens again, we will fight again. We will always fight. We will never surrender. That is what humans do. That is what being human means." The council listened in silence down in hospitals across Earth. Doctors and nurses worked to treat the injured from the space stations. Dr. Rachel Hayes stood in a medical center in Geneva, moving between beds with hands that never stopped working. Most of the injured would live. Some would lose arms or legs or more, but they would be alive. One young pilot named Kevin Price lay in a medical bed with burns covering his left side. A reactor had exploded near his position when the station took its direct hit. He had managed to reach an escape pod and get away, but the burns were severe. "Will I fly again?" Kevin asked Rachel as she checked his wounds. Rachel looked at him directly. "Yes," she said. "You will fly again. And when you do, you will remember what happened today. You will remember that you fought for your world." Kevin closed his eyes. In those eyes, Rachel could see the weight of what had happened. But she could also see something else. She could see determination. She could see the will to survive and to fight again. The Keshan Empire sent a message to the council requesting to provide advanced medical technology to help humans recover from their injuries. The Vexilon requested to open trade negotiations. The Trell offered to share their energy shield designs. In the space of a few hours, the entire relationship between humanity and the galactic community had changed. David Cole received a priority communication from Marcus. The council wanted to offer support. They wanted to help rebuild what had been lost. "Tell them thank you," David said. "But tell them that humans rebuild what humans destroy. We do this ourselves." It was not pride that drove this response. It was something deeper. Humans had learned through their entire history that the things you build yourself are stronger than things that are given to you. They had learned that struggle teaches you more than ease ever could. The final enemy ship was tracked leaving human space. Its commander, whoever he was, would return to whatever government had sent him. He would tell them that Earth could not be conquered. He would tell them that humans fought with a ferocity that matched their weakness with strength. He would tell them that attacking Earth had been the worst decision of his life. In the command center, Sandra sat down for the first time in 18 hours. The danger had passed. The immediate crisis was over. Now came the long work of recovery and rebuilding. But as she looked at the faces of her crew around her, she saw something that the council members had seen in Marcus's words. She saw humans who had faced death and refused to accept it. She saw a species that had proven it belonged among the stars. The turning point had come, and humanity had passed the test. The question now was not whether humans could survive. The question was what they would become with their survival. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy in waves of communication that no amount of power could have stopped. A primitive human civilization had defeated an attack from a superior force. The idea was shocking. The evidence was impossible to deny. Within hours, the story was being told on every planet where communications existed. On Earth itself, celebrations started before the smoke had even cleared from the sky. In every major city, from New York to Tokyo to São Paulo, people filled the streets. They sang, they danced. They held up signs that read messages of victory and survival. The fear that had filled every heart just hours ago was replaced with something powerful and primal. They had survived. They had won. But in the underground bunker in Colorado, David Cole understood that celebration was only a small part of what came next. He pulled up the damage reports from all around Earth and in space. 3 space stations destroyed. 2 more damaged. 17 humans dead on the stations. Another 30 on the ground, where one enemy ship had broken through before being shot down. 40-7 dead. 78 injured. Billions of people saved. The math was simple, but the truth was heavy. Sir, we are receiving requests from all the major governments on Earth, a technician said to David. They want to know what happened. They want to know if there will be more attacks. Tell them we won, David said. Tell them we lost good people, but the planet is safe. As for future attacks, that is a question only the Council can answer. In the Galactic Council chamber, the political situation was changing faster than anyone could have predicted. The Keshan Empire, which had dominated galactic military affairs for 300 years, was suddenly not the most feared power anymore. Humans had shown that advanced technology was not everything. Preparation and will mattered more than anyone had believed. Counselor, Mira approached Marcus Webb after the formal sessions ended. Her frost-colored skin rippled with something that meant respect in her species. Your civilization has earned a place that we cannot deny, Myra said. When you first came to this council, we viewed you as children playing with dangerous toys. We were wrong about that. Marcus accepted this acknowledgement but did not smile. We are still young, he said. We are still learning. But we are not children. Children would have surrendered. Children would have run. Humans fight when they have something to protect. The council began offering things that they had never offered before. The Keshan Empire extended an offer to sell advanced weapons technology at prices that were actually fair. The Trell delegation shared designs for superior shield generators. The Vexilon opened trade routes that would bring wealth to human colonies. But more important than any of this was something else. The Council offered humanity a voice. They offered membership on the Security Committee. They offered the chance to sit at the table where the galaxy's major decisions were made. Marcus accepted these offers carefully. He understood that gifts from powerful beings often came with hidden costs. But he also understood that Earth could not isolate itself from the galaxy anymore. The attack had changed that. Whether Earth wanted it or not, the young civilization was now a player in galactic politics. What would you like in return? Marcus asked the council. There is always a price for this kind of support. A commitment to work with us for peace, Zereth said. A promise that Earth will not use its military strength to attack others. And most of all, we want to understand how you did this. Your defenses, your coordination, your will to fight. These things are not what we expected from your people. Marcus nodded slowly. I will tell you what we learned. When you are young and weak, you cannot afford to waste resources on weapons that might not work. So you test everything. You prepare for every scenario. You accept that you might lose, but you refuse to make that loss easy. We did not build the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. We built weapons that would actually hit what we aimed at. That is the difference between a species defending its home and a species playing at war. In hospitals across Earth, the work of healing was beginning. Dr. Rachel Hayes spent 12 hours a day treating injuries from the attack. Some of the wounds were physical and could be healed with medicine and time. Some of the wounds were deeper and would take longer to heal. Kevin Price, the young pilot who had been burned when his station took a direct hit, was receiving treatment from a Keshan medical team that the Council had sent to Earth. The technology was advanced in ways that human medicine could not match. Kevin watched as the burned skin on his left arm was slowly being regenerated from the inside out. In 2 weeks, you will have full use of your arm again, the Keshan doctor told Kevin. The being was tall and had skin that changed colors as it moved. The technology is good. You will fly again. Kevin looked at his slowly healing arm and felt tears come to his eyes. Not from pain, but from relief. He would recover. He would be able to go back to the defense stations. He would be able to continue protecting Earth. Around Earth, monuments were already being built to the 47 humans who had died in the attack. Schools were being named after them. Statues were being placed in public squares. Humans had not been tested in war for generations. This attack had forced them to remember what it meant to have people willing to die to protect others. In the press center in Geneva, a woman named Lisa Freeman stood before reporters from dozens of news organizations. She had been living in a bunker during the attack while her brother flew a defense interceptor in orbit. He had survived. She had survived. She wanted to tell people what this victory meant. We are not special, Lisa said to the cameras. Her voice was steady, even though her hands shook. We do not have the best weapons or the most advanced technology. We are just humans. We are scared, and we make mistakes, and we die. But we do not quit. That is what makes us human. That is what the Council did not understand. They thought we would surrender because they had never seen a species refuse to die without fighting. But that is what we do. That is who we are. The word spread across every news network on Earth and beyond. They were translated into alien languages and sent across the galaxy. Humans were being seen not as a primitive and weak species, but as something dangerous and determined. The Council had believed that advanced technology made a civilization powerful. Humans had shown that will and preparation and refusal to surrender was power. Back in his office, David Cole was already working on the next generation of defense systems. The attack had shown him where improvements could be made. He wanted better shields. He wanted faster weapons. He wanted to make sure that if there was ever another attack, humanity would be even more prepared. We are not going to build more weapons because we are afraid, David told his team. We are going to build them because they work. Because preparation is how we survive. The first alien traders arrived at Earth 3 days after the attack. They came to buy things that humans made. They came to open business relationships. They came because Earth was now a place worth visiting, worth trading with, worth knowing. In the Galactic Council chamber, Marcus Webb sat in a new position. He was no longer the representative from a primitive civilization trying to earn respect. He was now a member of the Security Committee, a voice in the decisions that shaped the galaxy. As he looked around at the alien delegates, Marcus understood what had changed. Earth had not become more powerful because of technology. Earth had become more powerful because they had shown strength when strength was what mattered most. The aftermath of the attack was really the beginning of something much larger. It was the beginning of humanity's real place in the galactic community, not as a child species asking permission to exist, but as equal standing with the other powers of the galaxy. 47. Humans had died to make that happen, and every human alive would remember their names forever. The new Earth Embassy stood on the highest point in Geneva, a building that humans had designed and humans had built. It was smaller than the embassies of older species, but it was theirs. The architecture was simple and strong, built to last for 1,000 years. Inside, humans worked alongside aliens from a dozen different species, all working together to build something new. Marcus Webb walked through the halls of the embassy 2 months after the attack. The wounds were still fresh, but they were beginning to heal. Earth was already rebuilding the destroyed space stations. The weapons systems were being upgraded. The human civilization was moving forward with a determination that the Council had not expected. A message came through to Marcus from the Keshan Empire. They wanted to offer Earth a trade agreement that would bring massive wealth to human colonies. Marcus read the terms carefully. The offer was fair and good, but he knew that fair trade also meant expectations. "Tell them yes," Marcus said to his advisors. "But tell them that we trade as equals, not as a weak species being helped by a stronger one." The response came back within hours. The Keshan Empire agreed to these terms. They were beginning to understand something important. Humans did not want charity. Humans did not want to be protected by more powerful species. Humans wanted to be treated as partners and as peers. Admiral Sandra Lopez was promoted to the rank of Fleet Commander. She now had authority over all of Earth's space-based defense systems. Her first action was to begin construction of 3 new space stations, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything that had existed before. But Sandra understood something that went beyond weapons and ships. She understood that the true strength came from the people who operated the systems. So she also began a training program for a new generation of human pilots and commanders. They would be ready for whatever the galaxy sent their way. In her office, high above Earth, Sandra stood looking at the planet below. The blue oceans and green continents were visible through the transparent walls. Billions of humans lived down there. They had trusted the defense systems to protect them. The systems had worked, but Sandra knew that success was never guaranteed. The next attack might come from a different enemy. The next attack might be harder to defend against. She could not let humanity become comfortable or lazy. She could not let them believe that one victory meant that the future was safe. "Admiral, we have a communication from the Council," a technician said. "They want to offer you a position on the Military Strategy Committee." Sandra considered this for a long moment. A human on the Military Strategy Committee had never existed before. It was an honor, but it was also a responsibility. "Tell them yes," Sandra said, "and tell them that humans will bring something new to that committee. We will bring the perspective of a species that understands what it means to fight for survival." In the deep bunker in Colorado, David Cole was no longer just a military commander. He had become something more. He had become a symbol of human preparation and human will. Governments around Earth wanted his advice on building better weapons. Alien civilizations wanted to understand his methods, but David remained focused on one simple thing. He wanted to make sure that Earth would never be caught unprepared again. He spent every day analyzing the attack, learning from it, and planning for the next threat. They are asking us to export our defense system designs, one of David's assistants told him. Multiple alien governments want to learn how we built the orbital shields. David shook his head. We do not export those designs, he said. But we do offer to help other species build their own systems. We teach them the principles. We help them understand. But we do not give away what made Earth strong. The healing continued across the planet. Dr. Rachel Hayes was now working with the Galactic Medical Council to share human knowledge about treating severe burn injuries and trauma. The Keshan technology had been helpful, but human doctors had learned things that the advanced civilizations had forgotten. They had learned how to help people recover from wounds that other species believed were hopeless. Kevin Price was back to flying defense interceptors within a month of the attack. His left arm was completely healed, and he was stronger than before. When he launched from the orbital base for his first flight after the attack, the entire base cheered. Kevin was not alone in feeling the weight of what had happened. He understood that he had been given a second chance, and he would not waste it. In schools across Earth, children were learning a new history. They were learning about the attack. They were learning about the 47 humans who had died. They were learning what it meant to stand against impossible odds and refuse to surrender. Lisa Freeman had become a voice for humanity across the galaxy. Her speeches and interviews have been translated into a dozen alien languages. She talked about human fear and human courage and human determination. She told aliens what it meant to be human in a dangerous galaxy. We are not born to be brave, Lisa said in one interview that was broadcast across the galaxy. We are born to be afraid. We are born weak and helpless. We need years to grow up and become strong. But something in humans drives us to protect what we love. Something in us says that we will not give up. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength. The Galactic Council began to change in the months after the attack. Humans were added to committees that had never had humans before. Human voices were heard in discussions that would have happened without them in the past. The old powers of the galaxy were learning that a new power had arrived, and that power was called humanity. But the changes did not make all the older species happy. Some governments felt threatened by humans. Some believed that Earth was becoming too powerful too quickly. Whispers began to move through the galaxy that maybe the attack had not been a random assault, but a test. Maybe someone wanted to see how strong humanity really was. Marcus Webb heard these whispers, but he did not panic. Instead, he worked to build alliances with other species. He worked to show that humans were not a threat to the galaxy, but a partner in creating peace and safety. In the command center above Earth, Sandra Lopez prepared for peace and for war at the same time. The defense systems were stronger than before. The training for new pilots was harder and more intense. The weapons were more advanced. But Sandra also understood that showing strength was the best way to prevent conflict. We are not building weapons because we want war, Sandra told the Council in her first speech as Fleet Commander. We are building strength because we want peace. A strong enemy is one that will not be attacked. A weak enemy is one that will be destroyed. We choose to be strong. The galaxy listened to these words and understood them. 2 years after the attack, Earth was no longer a primitive species trying to earn respect from more advanced civilizations. Earth was a power that the galaxy had to consider. Earth had space stations that were the equal of any in the known galaxy. Earth had weapon systems that no species wanted to face in combat. Earth had training programs that created military officers who were among the best in existence. But more than this, Earth had something that money and technology could not buy. Earth had will. Earth had the determination of a species that had been tested and had not broken. Earth had the strength that comes from surviving what should have killed you. The anniversary of the attack came 1 year after the battle. All across Earth, moments of silence were held to honor the 47 who had died. Monuments were lit with eternal flames. Humans stood together and remembered those who had given their lives to protect the planet. Marcus Webb stood on the highest point of the embassy building and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out in that darkness, the species that had sent the attack was still moving. They still existed. But they would never come back to Earth. They would never underestimate humans again. And if they did come back, Marcus thought, they would find a world more ready than before. They would find a species that had learned how to survive. They would find humanity. The new dawn had come not with light and celebration, but with understanding and strength. Humans had taken their place among the stars. They had done it through sacrifice and preparation and a refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy would never be the same, and Earth had made sure of it.